For the ones who work hard to ensure their crew can always go the extra mile, and the ones who get in early so everyone can go home on time, there's Grainger, offering professional-grade supplies backed by product experts so you can quickly and easily find what you need. Plus, you can count on access to a committed team ready to go the extra mile for you. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey there! Did you know Baker's always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower-than-low prices? And when you download the Baker's app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Baker's today. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Welcome to the Having It All podcast, the show about what it takes to live an abundant, loving life. My name is Matthew Bivens, and I want to help you live with more clarity, confidence, and purpose so you can truly have it all. Let's do it. What's going on, my awesome friend? Welcome back to the podcast. I am Matthew Bivens, your balanced lifestyle coach. And if this is your first time checking out the Having It All podcast, then I want to say thank you so much for choosing to invest your time with me here today. And if you're a returning listener, if you're back for your second episode, or perhaps you've been here since day one back in 2016, then I want to extend a huge thank you to you as well. If you dig today's episode, then please share it with one person that you think would get some value from it. And if you ever want to reach out to me personally, perhaps you have an idea for a show episode you want to share with me, or you want to give me some feedback, or just say what's up, you can always email me at matthew@matthewbivens.com. Today's episode is all about integrity. Specifically, getting into integrity with your priorities, the things that you say are important to you. Earlier this week, I was listening to a business podcast that I like, and one of the hosts said something on the show that I totally love. He said, "Show me your Google Calendar, and I'll tell you your priorities." Now, this is a sentiment that I've expressed on this podcast before, and I've shared this sentiment with my clients as well. So what I'm going to do today in our conversation is I'm going to expand on the idea behind show me your Google Calendar and I'll tell you your priorities. And I'm going to tell you why this idea is incredibly important and how it connects with the theme of the podcast, having it all. And at the end of the episode, I'm going to help you experience more joy and more fulfillment this week. This very week, the week that you're listening to this on, you can experience more joy and fulfillment if you do the things that I tell you at the end of the episode. All right, so the concept we're exploring today is that you have some sort of calendar system in your life, whether it's a Google Calendar or a paper calendar, or you just have things in your head. You're so brilliant that you can hold all that information in your head. Whatever that you are putting on your calendar, you are saying that this is an important thing in my life. This is something worth investing my time into. And your time is your most precious resource. You cannot get any more of it. So when you designate a block of your precious time for a thing, then you are indicating that that thing is very important to you. This show, Having It All, is all about living an abundant, loving life. And one aspect of falling in love with your life is, first of all, being very clear on what those important things are in your life, your priorities or your personal values. What are those things? And then second, setting aside the time to honor those values and to spend time in your gifts, in your talents, in your passions. That's part of having it all. And so people who routinely spend their time with the people they value, in the environments that are important to them, and doing the things that are also important to them, those people more frequently report feeling fulfilled in their life. Now, on the flip side, when you know that someone or something is important to you, and yet you don't make time for it, that leaves you feeling this tension this tension inside between I'm saying this thing is important, but I'm not actually creating time for it. And that leaves you feeling frustrated and regretful and having this sense of longing and sadness and even envy. So I'm going to turn this back on you now. What are your top values? What are the things that you say are most important to you in your life? Or what are the things that you want to accomplish, create, or experience in your life right now? And my next question is, do you see those things reflected on your calendar? Whatever type of calendar that you utilize, do you see those things blocked out and time carved out on your calendar for those things that you say are so important to you? Let's say that you said improving your fitness is very important to you. Then do you have time on your calendar that's blocked out just for exercising, moving your body, doing something in the area of fitness? Maybe you said that growing your business or growing a second source of income is super important to you, something that you want. Well, have you created time on your calendar for that? Have you created time on your calendar to work on your current business rather than in your current business? Or maybe you're somebody who wants to improve a relationship. That's at the top of your mind. Have you created time on your calendar for quality time and date nights with your partner? Because most people, this is most of the people that I've worked with and coached with around this very thing, most of those people are out of integrity when it comes to what they say is important versus where they actually invest their time. They are not in integrity. And in this case, integrity is when you say something and you do something at a very high percentage. Like if I say I'm going to keep a promise to you, boom, I keep it 10 times out of 10. Being out of integrity, therefore, means if I say I'm going to do something, I do it maybe once out of 10 times, right? So most people that I encounter and work with in this area, they say that ABC is important, but their calendar does not have ABC blocked off on it. All right? So what's your level of integrity with what you say is important to you? Here's why you absolutely need to know what your level is. There's two reasons. Reason number one is that living out of integrity sucks. It just sucks. It feels terrible to say that, yeah, I'm all about this one thing, yet you do something else. Because like I said before, there's this tension inside of you. You hear that little voice in the back of your head saying, come on, you know you're not really going to follow through. And that's like putting a big old ankle weight on your dreams or your goals, your aspirations. You know, it's like this cloud that you carry with you all the time. And it makes having it all so much more difficult if you know that you do not create the time for the things that you say are important. The second reason why you really need to understand this for yourself in your own life is that when you have it all, when you're experiencing having it all, you feel massively fulfilled. And part of feeling massively fulfilled is living a life where you are actively making time for the people, the places, and the things that you say are important to you. When you feel most fulfilled in your life, think about it. Like when you have felt most fulfilled, it's probably because you were spending quality time with someone that you really loved, or you were doing something that aligned with one of your gifts, it aligned with one of your talents, or maybe one of your passions, or you were really honoring one of your closest values. That's where fulfillment comes from. So if that's where fulfillment comes from, then you definitely cannot feel true and deep fulfillment if you're out of integrity with your values, if you're out of integrity with those very people, places, and things that you say are so important to you. Let's go back to the original quote that I kicked off the episode with. Show me your Google Calendar and I'll tell you your priorities. So what does your Google Calendar tell you about your priorities? Let's do a little exercise. I want you right now to think back to the very beginning of this year, 2024, or whatever year you're listening to this episode on. I'm sure at the beginning of the year, you had some goals, you had a vision, you maybe had some resolutions. things that you wanted to accomplish and experience during the year. Could be a personal accomplishment, a professional one, something that's meaningful to you. You said that it was important and that you wanted to work towards it. Now, back then, did you set aside the time on your calendar to work on it, to work towards that goal? It's going to be a simple yes or a simple no. Did you carve out any time back then and put it on your calendar and say that I'm going to spend this time working on this goal or this vision, this dream? That's the first question I want you to answer, yes or no. The second question is, right now, all these days, weeks, or months later, is that time still blocked off on your calendar? Or have you replaced it with something else? Remember, what you put on your calendar, you are saying is important. And so if back then, at the beginning of the year, you said, what's so important for me is to really enhance and improve my health. Great. You got to make sure that you're creating that time for it. So here are now some action items that I want you to consider doing this week. Maybe challenge yourself to do these things. First of all, think about what are the 3 things that are most important to you right now. Your 3 most important things you want to create or you want to experience. It could be your top 3 values. Get clear as to what those are right now, because clarity is incredibly important here. I want you to be able to rattle those 3 things off if you and I were to bump into each other on the street tomorrow and I asked you about them. So those 3 most important things. Now, take a look at your calendar, whatever it is, if it's paper, if it's online, and is time for any of those things currently carved out in your calendar? If it is, awesome. Then your action item is to spend a little bit more time in those areas. How can you go a little bit deeper? Or how can you be even more present and really soak up the time with those people, or the time in those places, or the time with those things? How can you squeeze more out of that lemon? That's if your answer to the question was, yes, I do have those things on my calendar. If your answer is, no, I don't have time for my top 3 most important things on my calendar right now, then this week, what I want you to do is block off time for just one of those 3 things. Just one. You can do it. Go on your calendar and block off time. And start with a small amount of time, even if it's just 5 minutes. Block it off like you would a doctor's appointment or an important work meeting. Put it on your calendar because that's where you put your important things. And then, here's the second part. Once you put it on your calendar, you got to do everything in your power to keep that time sacred, to show up for whatever you've put on there, to not flake, to not bump it off, to not reschedule. Show up and make it happen. All right? That's the action item for this week. Next week, block off time for 2 of those 3 most important things. And the following week, block off time for all 3. And at the end of each of these weeks, I want you to journal and reflect in your journal about how it felt to make that time for your top 3 values. Like, how did it actually feel? Was it harder than you thought it was going to be, or was it easier than you thought it was going to be? And when you made time for those things, was it less fulfilling than you thought it might be, or was it more fulfilling than you thought it might be? It's important for you to reflect and really journal on these things, because right now there's probably a voice in your head that's feeding you reasons as to why this is not going to work for you, or as to why this is going to be very challenging for you. Be honest. Is there a voice right now that's creating reasons as to why you won't do this challenge and you won't follow through on these action items? Most likely there's some sort of conversation you're having. Well, the reflecting and the journaling that I'm recommending is going to help shut that voice up and ultimately change the story that the voice is feeding you. Because right now, that voice is feeding you a certain story. It's feeding you some sort of lie. Like, here's an example. Let's say that you wanted to improve your relationship. That's what you say is most important. Your current relationship, you want to improve it. So putting some time on the calendar for you and your partner to have quality time together, that's what you're thinking you're going to do. And then that voice in your head's like, it's not even worth trying to improve my relationship. I say it's important to me, but it's just clearly not important to them. And they're so stuck in their ways, and there's no way they're going to change. Even if I were to threaten to leave, they're not going to change. Like, that might be the story that your voice is spinning right now. And that story has a lot of weight to it because you've spent time building up a lot of evidence that supports that story. So after you do the exercise this week, next week, and the week after, every time that you're reflecting and really thinking back, like, how did it go? Was this effective? Was this fulfilling? What you're doing is you are showing yourself that things don't always end up the way that you think they will. And you're creating new evidence for a new story, ideally a more empowering story. And that's going to go a very, very, very long way towards you continuing to carve out the time for the things that you say are important to you, those top values. Even when other things try and take over that time block, because they will. They absolutely will. And I'll share with you, like, this type of exercise has been something I've been working on for a while. Because when I reflected on my calendar, and I did this years ago, it was full of all things related to work and making money. That was really it. And I then started to reflect, like, well, that's not what I'm saying my top values are. So what the heck's going on? So then I started to create some time and really block it off. And initially I was thinking I need to only block off things during work hours. But I work out twice a week at 5 a.m. That's not during work hours. And so I went back and I blocked that off. And then I also blocked off the time that I spend in the car taking my daughter to school in the morning and picking her up in the afternoon. I started blocking off all these different things because I was connecting with that principle that whatever makes it on my calendar, I'm saying is important. Therefore, I wanted my calendar to reflect what was important to me. So all these little things started to go on to the calendar. There was one area that continued to be a big challenge, and that was date nights with my wife, Sarah. And over the last, I would say, 6 months, Sarah and I have been so much more effective at creating a consistent date night. We had one tonight, in fact. It was maybe about 5 hours ago. We went on an awesome dinner date. And so getting that time created and carved out has been a journey. However, today, my calendar reflects so much more accurately what my top values are and the things that I say are most important to me. They are blocked off on the calendar. Even time just to be by myself. Time for me. I block that off because I'm important and I really value time by myself. I love spending time with my wife. I love spending time with my daughters. I love spending time with me as well. So I learned over the course of a number of years that this sort of practice, not only does it then show that on paper things are in integrity between what I say is important and what's reflected on paper, quote unquote, like my calendar, but it's also something for me personally, in my heart, in my spirit. I know that I'm creating time for the things that are important. And I'm honoring those things that I say are important to me. And that feels amazing. It feels very fulfilling. So this has been a journey for me. So I know from my own firsthand experience and from supporting many, many people around this idea that something shifts when you not only put those things on the calendar, but you hold that time. You got to hold it. You got to hold it. And it might be pretty challenging in the beginning because you're going to have all these other things coming at you saying, hey, we need your time. We need your attention. We need your focus. You got to make us a priority. But the longer that you hold it, that's like you taking a stand and really declaring, no, these are important to me. And the other stuff just tends to fall away. So I'm very excited for you. You've got your action items for this week. And, remember, I give you action items on this podcast because, well, I want you to think of your life is headed in a certain direction right now. You're creating a certain experience for yourself. You're creating certain results. That direction, that heading, is because of your current character. Your current character is a compilation of all of your habits. Take all your habits, put them in a bowl, mix them around. That's your character. So habits form character. Character sets the course of your life. That ends up at your destination, the results that you're getting. So if you want to create a different result in your life, a different experience in your life, you need to adjust your character. You only adjust your character by dialing up new empowering habits and dialing down disempowering habits. And a habit is an action, it's a way of relating to things, and it's a way of thinking about things. So that's why in this podcast, I so frequently give you new actions to try out, new ways of looking at things and relating to things, and new thoughts, new beliefs for you to wear on and see if they work for you. Because it's by addressing those three things, your actions, your relationships, and your thoughts, that you can then create new habits that adjust your character, that send you on a different trajectory in life. And so that's why I give these action items. So please share with me what comes as a result of you applying the things from this episode. Feel free to email me, Matthew@MatthewBivens.com. Give me some feedback. Tell me what worked for you. Tell me what didn't work for you. And once again, if you like today's episode, please share it with one person that you think might like it as well. It's really the simplest way to help grow the show and get the podcast out in front of other awesome people just like you. With that, I want to say thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really do appreciate you, and I'm sending you so much love. My name is Matthew Bivens, and here is to you having it all. Quick note about the Having It All podcast. I am not a doctor nor a licensed therapist. I'm a man with a story and a passion for conscious conversation. My thoughts, opinions, and beliefs are my own. So please consult with your doctor or healthcare provider regarding any questions or issues you have related to your personal physical or mental health.
Does your father know you're listening to this podcast? Well, when you're done, why don't you stop by and check out a show that is 100% dad-approved, Dadages. Hi there, I'm Chad Higgle. If you're looking for useful insights and practical advice you can actually apply to work, family, education, philanthropy, and just life in general, check out Dadages. That's Dadages, wherever you listen to your podcasts.